So I'm McKenzie Johnson. I'm the program coordinator for the LEAP project. And LEAP project, we do a bunch of different stuff, but primarily we hire high school age students to work on our farm here during the summer and then also during the school year. So for the farm side of things, we raise produce on under 3 acres, and I think we did about like 5,000 pounds of produce last year. Our produce goes to area restaurants in Carlisle, so Trattoria Piatto, Andalusia, Spoon's Cafe, places like that. And then we also distribute to 2 preschools in Carlisle and also within our own program. So youth that work with us over the summer get a weekly bag of produce, whatever's growing at the time. And then we also have a program where we make semi-prepared meals using our produce and produce from other farmers in the area.
Cool. Okay. So what makes the LEAF project so different than like factory farms or just like other farms in general?
Okay. So there are a bunch of different things. So our farm, first of all, is a lot smaller than what a factory farm would be. So if you're talking about some place that grows like acres and acres and acres of corn out in the Midwest, you know, they're huge, massive, and we're just 3 acres, and much less under production. We have like 3 acres of land total, but it's like probably about 1 acre under production. So the size is a really big difference, and then another difference is like mechanization. So a factory farm would use like big tractors. They would water or irrigate using these like long motorized hoses that sort of like spray, and they just like mechanically roll. There, it's like much more technology focused.
How do you water and like fertilize and plant your plants?
Yeah, so everything is planted by hand. So we either grow it to like a seedling like this and put it in the ground, or we direct seed, so we put the seeds in the ground. We water using drip irrigation. So that's just like a little tube of thin plastic, and it has little tiny holes like every couple inches. And so that you lay that right next to the plant, and it brings water, just a little bit of water at a time, right directly to the plant. It's supposed to be like saves water because you're not using, you know, you're just dousing the whole bed. You're just sort of like getting a little localized water.
Okay. So does LEAF use any methods of farming that is different than other local farms in the area?
Yes, definitely. So we use a specific style of like farming called like European market gardening, or like compact farming. So we try to get the highest yield out of a very small amount of space. So we use like very intensive methods, and where another farm might like, you know, they plant their peas in one bed and then pea season's over and they just leave that bed until next year, we will plant maybe like 3 or 4 things in that same space over the course of the season. And then there are a lot of like organic and like relatively small scale farms that do use small tractors or other like small engine equipment to do what they gotta do.
And does LEAF use any pesticides at all?
Yes. So the whole pesticide thing is like a little nuanced, right? Because pesticide just means like anything that can kill a bug. And so we use like organic pesticides a lot of the time. So there's like different sprays and stuff that you can put on your crops that are still organic. So like you can have like a copper mixture that you spray on tomatoes a lot of the time. And then there's also like this like clay mixture, I'm not sure exactly what's in it, that you can spray on like your brassicas, so like kale, broccoli, stuff like that. So we do use sprays, but we use them sparingly, and only when we notice that there might be a threat in the environment. So if you have a lot of cabbage loopers, are a common threat for like kale and broccoli and stuff like that. So if we see a lot of those around, we're going to make sure we spray a little of that clay mixture in order to protect them, and then we won't necessarily do it all the time. It's also like a lot smaller scale here. It's not like broadcasted over like a bunch of space. So yeah.
What about working at LEAF do you love, and how do you enjoy it?
So I really love it because I get to work with high schoolers, which is really fun. and I get to watch like a whole group of people who may have not had any interaction with a farm before, work with the soil and work with their hands for the first time. So that's really awesome. In terms of farming for leaf, I really think that because we're small, we can afford to spend more time on attention to detail and really like crafting, not just getting like 100 tomato plants and just counting that like, 9 of them will be all right. But really taking the time to like make sure everything is like really well done and it's gonna last us throughout the whole season because it like matters a lot.
Would you does Leaf ever consider selling their produce to local stores or like farmers markets or anything?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Local stores. So a place like Giant or something is not going to be, they're not really interested in coordinating with us about. They have to order a zillion pounds of tomatoes at a time, and it has to make logistical sense for them. So they're not going to order from a place that's as small as us. Other like smaller stores in the area, we try to get where we can. We've like worked with some small like little like local food shops and stuff in the past. But we also are primarily focused. We like sell at the restaurants and sell. Our CSA is like a much easier model for us. And then in terms of selling at farmers markets, we like our primary goal isn't to make profit the way that like a farmer would. So it's like unfair for us to sort of like sell at farmers markets and like compete with people who are doing it for their, our crop is a little bit different. We talk about like we're working on cultivating young leaders, not just growing plants. So we don't want to like, put any unnecessary competition on other farmers in the area.
Could you explain what a CSA is?
Yeah, so a CSA is like a pretty standard model for distributing produce. A customer would buy a CSA share. It stands for Community Supported Agriculture. Buy one at the beginning of the season, maybe in February or March, for say like the entire growing season worth of produce. That might be like 20 weeks. And they pay up front for all of that. And then every week they would get like a $15 value worth of like whatever produce is growing on the farm at that time. So that's like sort of like how a CSA model works. And then we use it for the youth in our program, and then also we have some outside people who sign up for CSAs.
And how does Leaf decide what produce to grow?
We coordinate with the restaurants and see, like, they're one of our biggest buyers, so we like coordinate with them and see what they want. And then, we coordinate, we think about, like, what's the preschooler's going to want. So, like, for instance, this year we're growing mini cucumbers because we know that, the kids are going to like to have, like, the little cucumber snacks. And we also think about what we want to put in our Leaf Kids program. That's a semi-prepared meal program. So, thinking about what kind of culinary uses we can do with all this kind of stuff. And then, we don't grow anything, like, too crazy. We grow, like, your standard, like, in the greenhouse right now, we've got lettuce, beets, some herbs, onions, peppers, tomatoes. Like, we don't grow anything wild or, like, really out there because we want to make sure all our produce is, like, palatable. And
could you show us some of the things you have in the
Yeah,
house?
Sure. So, this is our Salanova. This is, like, the lettuce mix that we sell to a lot of the restaurants. Got some beets here. These are tomatoes right here, peppers, the rest of the row is peppers. What else? Those are some herbs, and those little, like, stringy guys are onions.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah.
And how did you find Leaf and start to be, like, a part of Leaf?
I went to Dickinson College, and when I was there, I was at some event where I saw Heidi and Shane, the executive director and the assistant director. And I was really interested in the idea of sort of like doing farming, but then not just farming, also sort of like doing education or like working with younger people as well. And I worked at the college farm at Dickinson and was always really interested in agriculture and the stuff that it can do, not just for like an individual, but like for communities and stuff. So, yeah.
Where do you see Leaf going in like 5 years or 10 years in the future?
That's a really interesting question. Well, so this new program that we're doing, Leaf Kits, is like really exciting. So a lot of time families want to do like, they want to shop at farmers markets or use more produce in their meals and stuff, but it's really hard. Like if you think of like maybe you've got two parents or one parent who works all day, and then they come home and they don't really have time to like slave over a meal with like, fresh vegetables and everything. It's like a really like difficult thing to work into your schedule. So with Leaf Kits, what happens is 2 times a week or 1 time a week you get a box of 2 meals for your whole family, and everything's semi-prepared. So it's got all the pieces, and you only need like about a half hour to whip everything together into a meal for your whole family. And so that's a really exciting like new thing that we're doing. And what it's doing is it's getting local produce to people's tables in a way that's convenient and easy for them. And then they're like, oh, like now I know a good recipe. So every time I go to the farmer's market, I can pick up these ingredients and I know how to make that thing that I had in Leaf Kits. So I think I see us like expanding on stuff like that. So being in connecting people who want to eat locally to the easiest ways to do that.
What is your overall opinion on factory farms?
It's really complex. I think that at first when I learned about factory farming, I thought that it's all bad and like people who do factory farming are terrible people and like it's the most unhealthy thing, and I think I have a more complex view on that. Like it's important when you think about factory farming not to think about how like everything that they do is bad. So like people who are really good farmers who farm locally, create really good produce and do it in a sustainable way might use tractors. So it doesn't mean that like just because factory farms use tractors, all tractor use is bad. And I think that a lot of times factory farms are driven by like profit in a way that doesn't make sense. Like it doesn't end up really working out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we can, do a little bit of blending of some factory farming strategies and some like small scale organic strategies to create a better model that'll feed more people.
Thank you. And finally, how can like people in the community get involved with local farms and be able to eat from local farms and use their produce?
So in Carlisle specifically, there's Farmers on the Square, and they have a program called Cumberland Fresh Match. So if you're get like EBT or SNAP benefits, I think EBT is the right term, then you can go to the farmer's market, use like $10 of your EBT money, and get $20 worth of farmer's market tokens, and then you can spend that money at the farmer's market. So that's a really good way to get local produce on a budget. And then also just in general, if you want to go to the farmer's market and shop there, from May to like October, I think they're outside every Wednesday, and they have some of the best farmers in the region there. And then buying if you can, buying a CSA, if you're interested in experimenting in cooking and stuff, and you're interested in getting a crazy allotment of some collection of vegetables every week, signing up for a CSA from a farmer in the area is a really good way to do that. And a lot of smaller farms that have CSAs also do work for share options. So if you can't maybe afford it, you can spend 10 hours over the course of the season going out to the farm and helping out to sort of pay it for your share.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Cool.